and technology. My name is Guthrie. I'm here with Susan. Hello, Susan.
Hello, Guthrie.
Now, if you were following us live today, you might be confused because this is the second time we're doing this.
Yeah.
But if you're listening on, via podcast on your phone, then this will sound new. We started our podcast, and then Susan's internet just
Died.
vanished, and then she had to take a call, and so instead of trying to patch things together, we're just gonna
Start all over.
We didn't get very far, so it's fine. But if that happens again,
God, no. Then we
then
just give up and go on vacation.
I'll just wrap it up. Yeah, we'll finish it up.
You just talk on your own if it happens.
And it's possible there's a call that if it comes in, I'm gonna have to take. So.
Come on.
The nice thing is we did avoid the emergency phone.
That's
alert,
true. When the Martians landed.
So there might be.
If you have to take a call, I'll just hopefully keep talking.
Yeah.
Hopefully it'll be a short call.
So audience, please bear with us today.
Yeah.
So the last couple episodes, we've been really heavy on the theory, on UX strategy, very
detailed UX-y stuff.
Yes. I believe, did I call it like ephemeral, maybe was the word I used in the previous episode. So we're going to focus, I don't want to say like on current events, but we'll maybe just take a slight little diversion, talk about some stuff that's been going on in the tech industry, and it does directly relate to UX. It's not
humans and technology. It's the intersection of humans and technology.
Yeah, it's just a couple things that have been going on that we'll kind of briefly mention because it's important to keep in mind. So the first of those is going to be about antitrust. There's some really fascinating things happening with antitrust in both Europe and the United States. We'll focus mostly on the US side, but the Europe side is maybe more important for UXers.
I'll be interested to hear why you say that. But
for UXers, it's straight up. It's just Figma. It's we'll see what happens with Adobe and Figma.
All right, where are you starting then?
All right. This is not a whole primer on antitrust, but we should just explain what antitrust is. So very briefly, even though the U.S. doesn't have the reputation for it, the U.S. is actually quite a socialist country in a lot of ways. And in the early 1900s, there was a very strong socialist political movement that happened in the United States, corresponded with the workers' rights movement. Similar movement happened all over the world at about that time. And the U.S. passed a number of laws, which are still on the books, that give the United States government just sweeping powers to get rid of companies that violate antitrust.
Well, not get rid of them, but
to do anything. They could do all sorts of stuff if they want to.
Oh, but okay. All right. But usually what they do with those laws is just use them to make the big companies change.
Let's not get there. The point is that the laws are incredibly strong.
Yes.
If you're found, first of all, a monopoly, if you're a company and you sort of dominate the space.
Yeah.
So originally it was Standard Oil. So oil was discovered in Pennsylvania. There's this company who was able to dominate.
Oil was first discovered in Pennsylvania?
I'm pretty sure.
I thought, but all the legends and that sitcom that used to be on, it was discovered in Texas. It's all right. I didn't know that. That was just news.
I mean, I guess if we're being official, there were old stuff like China was doing stuff, 2,000 years ago because they invented everything.
No, I believe you. It's okay. It's okay. I didn't mean.
So there were others. So for example, in Ontario, there was a commercial well.
Wow. That's funny.
Let me just look up one thing real quick.
He likes to be exact.
I do like to be exact. So do you know who the CEO of Standard Oil was?
Tim Standard.
John D. Rockefeller.
Was he really?
That's the Rockefeller fortune. That's Standard Oil.
I didn't know that.
Yeah. Yeah, he's the co-founder and chairman.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's where they got all their money. Huh.
Yes.
Sorry, I didn't know that. That's very interesting. Okay, thank you.
No worries. So, isn't that fascinating?
That kind of is.
There was okay, but I'm not. See, sometimes, why do I know these random facts? I just do.
That's a mystery in itself.
So, at the end of the American Civil War, Cleveland was one of the 5 main refining centers in the United
Cleveland,
States.
Ohio. Okay.
Yeah, besides Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, and New York.
Okay.
And there was this region in Northwest Pennsylvania where most of the oil came from. So it all came from Northwest Pennsylvania.
Isn't that funny? Okay. All right.
And so he abolished a partnership and formed Standard Oil of Ohio.
There you go.
And just, became
a thing. All right. So
the richest person in the world. Okay. So and Standard Oil, there's oil, there was railroads, also a dominating part of the time. And these companies were huge and they were just dominating. And they did all kinds of stuff to keep their competitors,
from being able to exist.
Really nasty business stuff that you can't, you wouldn't even dream to do today. Today, everything is sort of like cloak and dagger,
You do it, but you try to do it behind the scenes. But back then, you just did it. We're talking about the early 1900s, right?
Yeah. Back then, it was a much more coordinated, brazen thing. Like, how can we bankrupt our, our competition?
Absolutely. Yep.
So,
and then along came the socialist tendencies and the antitrust laws, and then
and so part of the original, impetus of some of the early big antitrust stuff was taking these huge monopolies and breaking them up.
Yeah.
And a lot of the big ones were tech companies. Very interestingly enough, I mean, in some ways, oil was a new technology at the time. Kind of. At the time it was. The other big ones, I'll just list them. We'll talk about them later. That we talked about the railroads, talked about Standard Oil. AT&T was a huge one, which is basically just Bell Labs. So another situation where Alexander Graham Bell invented the telephone.
Yep.
And then like 100 years later, AT&T is just still around. So that, breaking up of AT&T, which is a big deal. And Microsoft having to divest stuff in the 90s, and Intel. So we'll talk about those in just a second. I do want to play just a little game, though.
Oh, we're going to play a game?
Just a small game.
Wait a minute. Before we do that, though.
Yes.
Because that was the past stuff, but the reason you're bringing this up now is that there's some interesting antitrust stuff going on now.
Exactly.
With tech companies. And that I think I think some of it, I was listening to a podcast this week, has direct impact on UX as well. So do you want to mention those companies?
Yeah, where we're going with all of this is these laws have been on the books. The Sherman antitrust, like, they've been on the books. They're very, very strong. But they are up to the government to enforce. And it's kind of come in peaks and waves, right? So at a certain time, certain governments have been more willing to go against, to kind of
big business,
against big business. Since Reagan in the 80s, though, Ronald Reagan, that was a time in the early 80s, both in Europe and the United States, in which socialism didn't seem all that great, and there was sort of we'll just say a cozying up with large business interests.
Yeah.
It was a decade of a lot of corporate consolidation. Mm-hmm. So like a lot of companies kind of consolidated together, and the FTC, which is one of the organizations, not the only one, but one of the ones that would bring a suit against a company for monopolistic behavior, antitrust behavior, anti-competitive behavior, I guess is maybe the right word. You don't have to be a monopolist. It's not the only thing that it works on, but anti kind of free trade.
Mm-hmm.
Those they became more of like a slap on the wrist kind of thing. The enforcement
Mm-hmm.
mechanisms kind of got put by the wayside.
Mm-hmm.
And that mostly continued through Clinton, though in 99 at the tech bubble, Microsoft did, but that's a good point, right? So the Microsoft thing, they didn't get broken up because they actually settled with
Right. Right.
the government
So
and like, we'll
they,
change this thing or that thing.
yes,
So the government, instead of like really kind of pushing for stuff, they're
hammering
sort
it.
of like, okay,
Just
you have to,
try and behave, do a few things differently.
yes. Um,
But
there,
now we're looking at
well, so that in the United States, that went through Clinton, that went through George W. Bush, that went mostly through Obama, though maybe things picked up a little bit. Went obviously through the Trump years, but Biden's team, for whatever reason, has really revived the teeth of
yeah,
the FTC. And many of these lawsuits, I mean, these are. I did go to law school. These are, you want to talk about a lawsuit.
right. These are really
I
big.
mean, these 10,000 page
Right.
document things, and
Right.
there's brief. I mean, it goes on for years and years and years. It's a really, really, really big
And
deal.
so
It's tens of billions of dollars at
there's
stake.
stuff going on, I know, with Amazon.
So some of this, we're a couple years into the Biden presidency. So I think some of this stuff it's been on the burner for a while, and
Yeah.
now we're starting to get there, and it'll be
Yes.
years before. So there's a lot more antitrust
Okay, but
activity.
just name the ones that we know are going on.
Well, in the United States and
Yes.
in Europe, the big one that just happened is Amazon,
Yeah, and that one's very big.
which
And
that's a
I
big
think that
deal.
one has lots of UX
I think that one has lots of
implications.
legs.
Lots of legs.
Lots of
Okay, what
legs.
else we got?
For their little tentacles are in all sorts of markets.
Yeah, we'll
Did you
talk
hear
more
about
about that.
Okay, we'll talk more about that. Remind me to tell you about the diaper.com story.
Okay, I will tell you
Amazon.
about the diaper.com story.
There is a antitrust suit going on with Microsoft, which you don't know about, because that involves Microsoft's 70-ish, 60-ish billion-dollar purchase, something around there, of a major video game studio, and them trying to
Actually, I might know about this.
dominate the video game space in some
Okay.
capacity.
So we have something going against Amazon, something going against Microsoft.
There's the antitrust rumblings that have already sort of petered out, already have kind of crested with NVIDIA, where they tried to buy ARM, which is another chip maker,
right.
Or chip designer, technically.
Is there something against Google going on right now?
Google and Facebook.
Yeah.
Well, Meta, Alphabet and Meta.
Alphabet and Meta.
Always have since for the last 5 years, there's been
antitrust against them,
brouhahas, and I think those are also starting to ramp up. But I just, off the top of my head, and I would have to maybe you know better than I do, but definitely the ones that come to mind is the big video game one. We'll see what happens with Adobe and Figma, and of course Amazon being the huge one.
So we'll come back to that. You said you wanted to play a game.
I want to play a game.
What's the game?
So this is maybe for more of our American audience. If you're in Europe or elsewhere, you may not have these companies. So this is Standard Oil. When they broke up Standard Oil is one company, and they broke it up into 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 main companies. And 10 main companies and like 24 others. So
am I supposed to name some of them? Is that the game?
No, definitely not.
I could.
Like some of them were like, Standard Oil of Indiana, whatever. You don't know that one.
All right, what's the game?
So when they broke up Standard Oil, I mean, they dismantled it with a sledgehammer.
Yeah.
They really did. All right. So we're going to play a game. You know a little bit about oil companies in the United States.
I guess. I mean, not a lot, but a little bit. Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Can you guess all the children of Standard Oil
What do you mean
that
the
are here?
children?
Well,
all the companies that came out of that are still in business?
Yeah, or that you've heard of. So, for example, I'll give you an example. You wouldn't necessarily know this. Standard Oil of New Jersey in 1959 becomes Humble Oil, right? You
I'm
wouldn't
not going to know that.
wouldn't know that, right?
Although I did live in New Jersey for a while, but no, I would not know that.
Yeah, so I'm not right. So it's like some of these you wouldn't know, but I'm talking about the ones that you would, the brands that you would know that are the descendants of Standard Oil from the 1920s. Let's
I'm
try.
Guessing. Okay.
Yeah, this is a fun game.
I think Esso that then turned into Exxon.
Esso that then turned into Exxon. You are
Do I get partial credit?
You are mostly right. You are mostly right. Are you sure that Esso turned into Exxon?
Maybe not. But all right, so then I'll just say Esso.
Well, how would we just do Exxon Mobil?
Okay, Exxon. Well, okay. Let's be clear. Exxon and Mobil were two different companies.
Yeah. So here's how it goes.
Here's another one. Conoco.
No, just
Phillips
hold on.
Were two different companies.
Yeah, of course they were. So hold on. So Standard Oil of New Jersey becomes Humble Oil.
Okay.
Which they were acquired by Jersey Standard in 1959.
Okay.
In 1973, Standard Oil of New Jersey rebrands as Exxon. Oh. So Exxon is just Standard Oil of New Jersey. Okay? Yeah. Standard Oil of New York, which was Saucony,
becomes Shell.
Rebranded in 1963 as Mobil.
Oh, Mobil. Okay.
And then in 1999, Exxon merges with Mobil to become ExxonMobil. So ExxonMobil, the merger that happened in 99 is just Standard Oil of New Jersey merging with Standard Oil of New York, which is hilarious.
Okay. All right.
What's the other one that you mentioned?
And Conoco, Phillips.
Shell is not.
Were they separate?
Things people don't know about Shell. People don't think about this. Shell is an old company. It's actually called why is their logo a shell? That's kind of strange for oil, wouldn't you say? Why is it a seashell?
I don't know, because they come from the ocean?
Because it was part of the long history of like the Dutch East Indian Trading Company, and it is Royal Dutch Shell.
Oh. I think I vaguely
and so that is why it's a shell, because of the shipping, because of the Dutch thing. Yeah. Royal Dutch Shell. There's one that maybe we'll get. They do acquire one of the brands that you will recognize later, and so we'll get to them. So they are sort of they're not a direct child. They're sort of adopted.
That's interesting. So they're not a direct.
Nope.
From the split up. Okay.
Nope. Since we're sort of doing it,
Texaco.
Total is the French oil company. They also are not.
How about Texaco?
Texaco. Texaco was acquired.
Texas brand of.
Yep. Do you know who the parent of Texaco is? It starts with a C. CHE. Chevron. Have you ever heard of Chevron?
Oh, Chevron. Sure.
Chevron. So Chevron.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Was created in 1985.
Yeah.
When Standard Oil of California, Calso, rebranded as Chevron.
Oh God.
And then they acquired Texaco. So Texaco is just Chevron, which is just Standard Oil California.
So you break them up and then they all come back together.
Keep going.
I said Conoco and Phillips.
Conoco and Phillips, that is a ding, 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 ding. The Conoco is actually, they never really rebranded. They were the Continental Oil Company.
Okay.
Conoco. So that's just
Okay.
Standard Oil. Like
Yeah.
that was one of the breakup
Okay.
ones. Was Continental Oil Company
Okay.
was Conoco. They were acquired by DuPont in 81, which I kind of forgot about.
Mm.
And then in 99, they divested that Conoco.
Okay.
And it
Let's.
merges with Phillips Petroleum to make
Can we
ConocoPhillips.
can we move on from the?
Fine. No, we can't. But I'll speed it up. I won't have you guess anymore.
Thank you. It was fun.
Amoco was
Oh yeah,
Standard
another
Oil of
co. Yeah.
Indiana,
Yeah.
which BP acquires in 98.
Yeah.
So BP is part of this.
BP. Yeah.
That was Standard Oil of Indiana. It becomes Amoco. The Ohio Oil Company
Yeah.
rebrands in 62 as Marathon
Oh yeah.
Gas, which
Marathon gas.
bizarrely
Yeah.
gets bought in 82 by U.S. Steel.
Oh, that
And
is
then
bizarre.
divested in 2001. So Marathon Oil is a direct one. The one that you didn't get, it's not necessarily a gasoline company. It's an oil company. Think of like other oil related things. And your hint is Pennsylvania.
No.
So the South Penn Oil Company
No, I didn't know.
rebrands
Oh
as
yeah.
Pennzoil.
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 I remember Pennzoil.
Yep, in 55. And then that eventually gets spun off and eventually acquired by Royal
Well, this was
Shell.
a fun walk down memory lane for me, but okay.
Yeah, so basically like every single gas station in the United States is just still
standard, except
Standard
for
Oil. You can all just trace that. Yeah,
Isn't
except
that
for
funny?
Shell and BP even
Kind
though
of
they
did
acquired
something.
Amoco, so they merged in. So there you go. All right, so that's Standard Oil. Let's jump forward a lot of years.
Okay.
Of interest to us as we get closer to the tech side of things.
Yeah.
The big one was, of course, Microsoft.
Yep.
Right. That was briefly. We had said that they settled out of court. Everyone thinks it was about Windows,
and
but it actually wasn't. It actually wasn't
about
Internet
Explorer.
Explorer.
You told me this. Internet Explorer.
Yeah, Internet Explorer, which is really weird to think about. But so the lawsuit was on 99.
Yeah.
At that point, they put they were putting Internet Explorer as the default for everything.
Yeah.
And it wasn't open source. There wasn't a whole lot of open source software back then. And so there was all kinds of technologies that required Internet Explorer to run.
Right.
And the thought was that they were making technologies exclusive to Internet Explorer and putting those in Windows so that Netscape Navigator, if you remember Netscape, which then became Firefox.
Yes.
So that basically to try and kill Netscape Navigator. So they were destroying the competition.
Yep.
And they settled, and they had to ease off on shoving Internet Explorer down everyone's throats.
Yep.
And in the first kind of version we had talked about, it was at the rise of Google. It wasn't the rise of Google, the search engine, but it was the rise of Chrome. So that lawsuit directly leads to the Chrome browser because of the open standards that come because of that. And ironically enough, now Google is in trouble because of the domination of the Chrome browser. Even though Chromium is open source, there's a lot of tech that Google does that sort of
tied to it.
And their domination of the advertising space online
is getting them in trouble with
strange because they need cookies or other ways of tracking everyone.
Everybody makes cookies.
And they make the browser that tracks people, and they're in charge of developing the browser. So there's sort of like this it's sort of like the really bad like in the United States we have these like super PACs for the campaign finance, where it's like Americans for Ron Johnson or whatever it is, and it's like an independent organization, but it's like working on behalf of
that candidate
thing. So it's like Google has this independent development of Chrome, but then Chrome is also like making decisions that would benefit Google. So it's just sort of this weird, it's a weird
Yep.
relationship. And the other one I wanted to mention was Intel,
Yeah.
which got sued. Intel had all the patents to x86, which is basically the code base for almost all modern, CPU stuff that's
Yeah.
not mobile, that's not x64,
Yeah.
that's not ARM. And the x86 instruction set, I mean, it was a huge deal. And no one, so if you wanted to, for example, run, we don't think of it today, but if you wanted to run Windows for a long time, you could only run Windows on Intel chips.
That's right.
Because they had the patents on x86, and all
Right. And
software
that
that
was
used
it.
x86 had to use.
Had
So
to
we don't
use
even think
it.
about that anymore because, as part of Antitrust, they were forced to create a competitor, like to give birth to their own
Competitor.
like child, essentially, and give that competitor a lifetime exclusive license to use x86, so that there was another competitor in the CPU
Yeah.
space. That competitor is, of course, AMD.
Right.
So AMD is just Intel that was forced to break up.
Yep. Okay.
Or do something. Oh, and the last one is the AT&T thing. It's all the companies that you've heard of. I was going to play the
Bell
same game, but we
Labs.
took
Yeah.
too long.
Took
So,
too
for
long.
example, Verizon is a direct
Yeah.
descendant of the
Frontier.
AT&T, but yeah, breakup. Yeah, Frontier. So I was going to play that game too, but my oil game went too long.
Okay.
So that was my super too long preamble. I'm sorry. It wasn't
That's
a
all right.
preamble, but
I like the walk
so
down
the point
memory
is
lane.
that there are laws and mechanisms for breaking up tech, and I think a lot of people they feel trapped when it comes to big tech in their lives. I think a lot of people are very frustrated with.
Oh, see, I think the opposite.
You don't think people are frustrated with big tech companies?
No.
I think it's one of the one things that's like bipartisan in America is like
No.
dislike of big tech
No,
companies.
no, not at all. Like
Oh, okay.
when I was listening to this podcast this week about the antitrust stuff against Amazon, I thought, oh boy, there's going to be a lot of people that aren't going to want this to change. Yeah, you can say that people don't like big tech, but I don't know if that's true. I think maybe they no. I think no. I think that if you think about just branding, I think a lot of people think Google's wonderful, uh, Amazon's wonderful. I don't think. I think there's lots of people that think these are wonderful brands, and whether they think they're wonderful brands or not, I think there's a lot of people that don't want things disrupted. So can we talk for a second about what the FTC is saying about Amazon?
Yeah, go ahead. This is you know more about this than I do, so you should
Maybe.
go for it.
Well, so there's some things that Amazon is doing and has done that the FTC is bringing suit about. So, if you sell something on Amazon, if you're a seller, okay, and you no, let's start from the user perspective. I go on Amazon, I'm interested in buying something. Let's say I want to buy a toothbrush, and there's a particular brand I like, and I bring it up, and there's those toothbrushes, and there's a nice big button that says buy or add to cart, right? Big button, and then it says it's prime shipping, it's going to ship really fast, and all of that. If you are the toothbrush manufacturer and distributor, and you have that toothbrush for sale like at your own site or at another site for less money, that big buy now or add to cart button disappears. And instead, there'll be a button that says, what's the exact wording? Is something like find sellers or additional sellers or something like that. So it's an extra step you have to go through to buy it. And Amazon does that automatically. It crawls the web, and if it discovers that you as the seller have that product less expensive, or if anyone has that product less expensively for sale anywhere else, it automatically won't put that buy now or add to cart button on. And the FTC is like,
there are so many examples. You should keep telling yours.
yeah.
I want to tell the diaper.
Well, it's so. I mean, that's just one example of something that Amazon does that the FTC doesn't like. And you could you could argue one way and you could argue another way, and there's
So the diaper one, very quickly.
Yeah, tell me the diaper one.
There was a website called diapers.com.
Mm-hmm.
They sold diapers.
Mm-hmm.
Amazon wanted to win the market on the diaper space.
Mm-hmm.
They lowered their prices.
Who did?
Amazon.
Mm-hmm.
They spent $300 million selling diapers below cost until they bankrupted diapers.com.
Mm-hmm.
And then I believe, I could be wrong about this part, but I believe then they just bought them.
Yeah.
And had the domain redirect to Amazon for pennies on the dollar because they had no money. And then they increased the prices. Yeah. Which is just like textbook down the middle. You're not supposed to use your market power to sell under cost to bankrupt and then a competitor, and then you jack the prices once you have a monopoly.
Yeah, I mean, the FTC is also going after things that have to do with Prime and Amazon being, that you have to store your stuff if you're a seller, at the warehouse, at the Amazon warehouse. And
how so?
What do you mean, how so?
What do you mean they're going after Prime? Like, in what specifically? If you don't remember,
I don't remember the details of that one. But what struck me as I was listening to this was some of the changes that the FTC wants, because and it's interesting. So it is true that some of the things, or maybe all of the things that the FTC is complaining about and suing Amazon about, results in less competition. And that this is always what the FTC is doing with the antitrust. There's less competition. It's going to increase the prices to the consumer. The consumer is going to pay more money and have less choice. Those are the two things that it's usually going after. And they have good evidence in the instances of, for instance, of what they're doing with Amazon. However, you are going to get to the point where it is less convenient. It's like, are we willing? Is it okay with us? Fine. I'll have less choice and it'll cost a little bit more, but I'll have this wonderful convenience, and I can just go to this one place and I can just press the big yellow button and everything will be wonderful. And, that's just the way it is. Like, is that it? Do I want to give up that user experience? Because I think that for some of this antitrust stuff, that it means, yeah, you have more choice, and it means ultimately things might cost a little bit less, but they also might be a lot less convenient.
Maybe. You should note that when it depends what they do, if you go the Intel route, it's not necessarily that Intel went away. It's just that they added a competitor to the space. If you're smart about it, Amazon could be exactly as it is, but then there would just be like I don't know, like Yangtze, picking other major rivers on continents. That's a competitor that is like Amazon but different somehow.
Yeah.
So in theory, in an ideal, the whole point is that monopolistic control is inefficient. Theoretically, if you have, if the company is not operating in a monopolistic way, it doesn't mean that they necessarily go away unless they break up Amazon, which I would be surprised at. It's more just like there are then other competitors. You have options. So it's everything you have at Amazon, but then also other options from other companies.
Yeah, I'm not convinced.
Although
I tend to be in favor of antitrust. You know, I tend to be in favor of the FTC.
This is the argument. This is the exact same argument that Microsoft made in '99.
They did?
Yes, for sure.
What did they say?
It's the
all right, we have dead airspace here while Guthrie looks things up on the on his computer.
Yeah. Where's this lawsuit? Yeah, U.S. versus Microsoft. It's a really. I was trying to find the case name. It's just United States of America versus Microsoft Corporation.
Okay, it's very plain.
Yeah, very, very plain.
You know, I think, Guthrie, while you're looking for that, maybe you should have, you know, I know you have a law degree. Maybe you should have become an antitrust lawyer. I think you would have.
Oh, antitrust was fun, yeah.
But which side would you be on? Would you be on the FTC side or on the corporate side? Which?
I'll never tell.
Well, you know, it's not too late. If you want to go into this as your, you can switch careers, I guess. They, you know, right now, Amazon and all these companies, they might need some good.
So,
good
okay,
lawyers.
just some funny things. So in 1984, InfoWorld wrote, Microsoft is widely recognized as the most influential company in the microcomputer software industry. Claiming more than 1 million installed MS-DOS machines, founder and chairman Bill Gates had decided to certify Microsoft's jump on the rest of the industry by nominating applications, operating systems, peripherals, and most recently, book publishing. Some insiders say Microsoft is attempting to be the IBM of the software industry. Although Gates says he isn't trying to dominate the industry with sheer numbers, his strategy for dominance involves Microsoft's new Windows operating system. Our strategies and energies as a company are totally committed to Windows, the same way that we're committed to operating system kernels like MS-DOS and Xenix, said Gates. We're also saying that only applications that take advantage of Windows will be competitive in the long run. Gates claimed that Microsoft's entrance into the application market with products such as Word and the new chart, which I believe becomes PowerPoint, was not a big-time operation. So it's just sort of funny to think of, you know, oh, like Word is not a big deal. But yeah, I think many times, yeah, here you go. Microsoft defended itself in the public arena with the lawsuit, arguing that its attempts to innovate were under attack by rival companies jealous of success. And so in a full-page ad in the Washington Post and the New York Times on June 2nd, 1999, the ad was an open letter to President Clinton from 240 economists and on antitrust protectionism. And it said, consumers of high technology have enjoyed falling prices, expanding outputs, and a breathtaking array of new products and innovations. Increasingly, however, some firms have sought to handicap their rivals by turning to government for protection. Many of these cases are based on speculation about some vaguely specified customer harm in some unspecified future. and many of the proposed interventions will weaken successful U.S. firms and impede their competitiveness. So Microsoft basically made the exact same argument that if you do this,
Yeah.
customers they have falling prices and all these cool new products and innovations,
Yeah.
and you the government
You're
is
gonna
going to
mess it
stifle
up.
that.
And that
So
yeah,
what you
that's
said
interesting.
it's not
Exactly.
new.
I
It's
didn't
not
say it
new.
was new. I didn't say it was new.
I
And
didn't
I
tell you.
guess,
Yeah.
all right, would you say that in the history of all this stuff, since the early 1900s, that actually it does help innovation and it does help consumer choice and it's a good thing, when all these, because like you said, there is this whole history of antitrust legislation and even with the tech industry. So do you think that should the government win these current cases that are up, do you think it would be good for the humans?
Yeah. Yeah. I do.
You do?
But part of it is like you do have to, this is one of the reasons I brought up all the children. Like you do have to take like a 70-year long look at
Yeah,
some of this
yeah,
stuff, right?
yeah.
Like okay, yes, Southern Bell died and it
Right.
merged into this and that became that and
Yeah,
this became this other thing,
because it
blah blah
changes
blah blah
over
blah,
time.
right? But like that was the foundation of a company that became, Quest Communications, which
Yeah,
now is NBC Universal. That one's actually those the example. Those two are actually not related, but right, all the different oil companies that these days are now competing in this market.
yeah,
So it's a little hard. You can't just measure it based on, well, I could do X and now tomorrow I can't.
yeah. You
Even
have
though
to take
I don't think that would happen.
you have to
It's
take a
sort of,
longer term view.
yeah, or AMD, right? I mean, AMD has when AMD was spun off, they were kind of cute for a long time and they were mostly irrelevant. But there have been these moments where they do really well and they kind of feel like they catch up, right? And it's like, oh my God, is AMD better than Intel? And so far, every time Intel has been able to reassert itself as the leader through innovation and through better products
So
and better pricing.
you think antitrust actions eventually are good for the user and the consumer? In
Oh,
maybe not 100%, but in the aggregate, it's a good thing for the users.
well, look, everything for me is on spectrums, and I do think that there's a point in time where maybe the government could be too heavy-handed in a lot of cases.
Yeah.
That has not happened in my lifetime. In my whole lifetime, it's been nothing but consolidation and bigger profits. I mean, corporate profits are at all-time highs for since John D. Rockefeller,
And
like not like in the last
right,
20 years,
but
like ever.
okay, but
So
again, one could argue. Well, I don't want to argue politics, that's for sure. But you're saying though that you think
I think it's good
ultimately,
policy.
yeah, you ultimately think it's going to be good for the users and
There are
humans and the consumers.
so it's sort of like it's like it kind of gets me thinking about like D&D sometimes. Uh,
Okay,
yeah. So like
why?
Elon Musk, just this week mentioned that he wants to have news journalists post their content on X instead of link out, and that it's better for the journalists. And this is what Facebook did, where before there was just the link, and then Facebook tightened the screws and said, no, 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 we won't prioritize link outs. If you put your content or your
Right.
videos directly into the Facebook feed, we'll prioritize that content.
Yeah.
And I think X is going to do the same thing, right? And the dirty secret is that X is like, well, we share the revenue with the whatevers, right?
Yeah.
But what they're trying to do is they're trying to be like the Saudi Arabia of content. All the content flows through their pipe.
Yeah.
So, oh yeah, we share the profits, but of course, if we want to turn the spigot, we can because we're controlling everything because we're
Yeah.
the platform. So there is huge profit. I mean, it's not a secret. All the big tech CEOs know if you can become the platform that's
Yeah.
worth gajillions of dollars.
Yeah.
And so as a consumer, it's probably better if there's not one big player who becomes the platform. If you can become the platform, you can leverage that to do some really cool stuff. I think a great example is maybe Microsoft 365 or the Adobe, cloud suite of products that all kind of work together really nicely. And so if PowerPoint was a different company, then Word was a different company,
Right.
and Teams is a different company, right? You couldn't do some of the really interesting stuff that it all kind of meshes well and all the files work and the sync works and you can share
Yeah.
things and you can link to stuff because it's
Well,
all one company.
kind of doesn't work as well as I
Yeah,
would like, but okay.
but right. So there's this there's like the kind of, I guess, in theory, like there's a best case scenario where it's all within the platform or it's
Yeah.
all within Amazon, and then it's just great. And Amazon's a tough one because they have like the highest like customer sasatisfaction of almost like any tech company.
Right.
So that's like they're
and that,
sort of doing
by
it.
the way, that is their they're talking about that in their defense of the lawsuit. That's what they're saying.
Yeah, no, exactly. But you know, what would it look like if there were open standards, right? Like it looks this way, and like if you got rid of it, then Word wouldn't be able to talk to PowerPoint in this like theoretical example where like you had to spin off Word and PowerPoint into their own thing. They like couldn't talk to each other. ... Well, unless if there were more competitors, maybe an open standard would exist, in which case they'd have to communicate with each other, much in the same way that I read a very fascinating article about how tons of innovation happened by interfacing with the closed standard, by not using an open standard. So, for example, when Google Docs was trying to become relevant, the way that they did, and Google Docs is huge. I don't think people realize their Google Workspace Business Suite is huge money and used by tons of businesses all over the place. I mean, they really they haven't dominated the market because Microsoft responded, but like they're a huge player. And the way that they did it was they figured out a way to reverse engineer Google Doc or Word doc, so you could save your Google Doc as a Word doc and open it in Word. And so there wasn't an open standard, but they kind of hacked an open standard together so that you could use Google Docs or Word interchangeably. And so a lot of the sort of competition that comes is when there's a dominant player and some startup is like, hey, use our stuff. But guess what? It also works, outside. So it sort of would be like if Sketch or some startup was like, hey, yeah, blah, 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 blah. You can also open our files in Figma.
Right.
And so there's a little bit of a cat and mouse sort of game that's played. I do have one more kind of piece of information here for you.
Okay.
This is a poll done in 2021. And the question is, how much confidence do you have in this institution? All right.
Okay.
So the American institution with the most confidence amongst Americans is small businesses. People love small businesses.
Really?
Yes. 70% of U.S. adults have a great deal or quite a lot of confidence in small business.
See, I wouldn't have thought that was true.
Military is number 2, 69%.
Who's at the bottom?
The bottom with 12% of people have a great deal or quite a lot of confidence is Congress.
I was going to say it's the government.
No. It's not the government. It's Congress.
Congress.
Congress specifically is an institution.
Yeah.
Television news is the second lowest at 16%.
This is fun.
And the third lowest at 18%
is
big business.
Really?
So this idea, it is sort of a bipartisan issue.
Oh, wait a minute. I am sorry. No. Okay. This is so interesting. Yeah. All right. You can say...
No, hold on. This is just a poll question, right? So it's sort of like if you ask the poll question versus, okay, do you actually...
I know.
You're going to stop shopping on Amazon?
Because people you're talking about branding. You're talking about where do people
Walmart,
shop? Okay, if I don't
Costco,
shop at Amazon, I'll go shop at Walmart.
IKEA.
It's like people love these big companies. This,
I think I read something that like IKEA uses 2% of all trees on Earth. I mean, they're sustainably forested. It's not like they
no,
cut them
but
down
I
and they grow
mean,
again. But it's like yeah, like 1 out of every 50 trees
look,
on planet Earth goes into IKEA
it's
furniture.
like small businesses in the community. There'll be there'll be these campaigns. Let's shop local, and for 1 week out of the year, everyone will go down to their local store, and then the 51 weeks out of the year, they don't. So, I people say this stuff, Guthrie. I mean, but so that's when
I have
I
an
come.
anecdote for you.
Because, okay, look, here's what, from a psychological point of view, right?
Mm-hmm.
People get into a habit. People like brands. They like to shop from brands. Maybe they don't trust the brands. I don't know, but they like to shop from the brands. And people really like consistency, and that's what the brand, especially if we're talking about retail, especially if we're talking about fast food or just food retail. I mean,
I wouldn't call. We'll call it, but let's back up a little bit.
what?
We're talking about retail stuff. We're talking about Amazon.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. Wendy's is just not a big business. Not in the grand scheme of American big business. Not compared to a Meta.
Okay. Okay.
Right.
Okay.
So you gotta,
Yeah.
yeah,
All right. All right. All right. We can take fast food out of it if you want. But
but if you want to, you want to talk about Walmart, you want to talk about Amazon,
yeah,
you can.
people
Uh,
they really like the big brands. They want to do
let
business
me,
with and shop the big
can I
brands.
just give you just a sense of things?
What?
So Yum exclamation point brands,
Yeah.
which owns KFC, Pizza
Taco
Hut,
Bell.
Taco Bell, and some other stuff. Um, their revenue in 2022 is about $7 billion. Okay.
Is that not a lot?
Um, so Meta, their revenue in 2022 was 116 billion. So it's like Meta's like 40 times bigger than Taco Bell, KFC, and Pizza Hut
Yeah,
combined.
I know, but compare that with the corner diner,
This is true.
which
Yeah.
is not at 7 million.
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
much less
Well,
16
everything's a
million,
matter of scale, right?
a billion.
So yeah,
Right,
Yum Brands is a big business for sure. But I think when people think of like
but people
big
don't.
business and antitrust, I think
Yeah,
they think of the big tech companies because that's where, I mean,
yeah,
just by
yeah,
scale,
yeah,
they're
yeah,
so much bigger.
yeah,
Um, so I would, what I, so, okay, what I will say is this is true, but I do think, unlike maybe some other industries, the stuff is changing in tech really, really fast.
yeah.
And part of it is because of their thirst for profits.
Yes,
We've talked about enshittification on this channel before,
yeah,
and for those people should look it up if you haven't known about it. But there is this, tech companies have a habit of they push really hard by making a great product at a low
yeah,
price, and they dominate it, and um, then they basically start screwing the business people who are running it. They get them locked in the platform like Amazon does, and you have to have your stuff in our warehouses, right? Well,
yeah.
now you're using us to ship your products,
Right,
so you can't go sell them on Walmart or
right,
Temu or whatever. Like you're using us as a distribution channel, so it
right.
only pays if you're locked in. Then they screw the people. Then they screw the people on one side of the transaction,
Yep,
which is like the people providing the service. And then once they're locked in and screwed, then they screw the people on the other side of the transaction. And it just kind of all falls apart.
yeah,
And then platforms get really shitty and then they die. And it's sort of like the life cycle of these big tech companies. And it is interesting because take an Amazon. It's not what it was 5 years ago. It has become dominated by weird Chinese. I mean, like there was always like a lot of like kind of like, quote unquote Chinese crap on there, but now it's sort of dominated by it, right? I mean, you're like, hey, I want to get a hose, and it's clearly the exact same hose that's made in the exact same factory in China.
Yeah.
But it's like, McCorgy and Oberklein
Yeah.
hose, and like, which I don't know if you know, but in order to sell, you have to have a name that's not a registered trademark. So companies in Asia, they just make up like hundreds of literally randomly generated names. Yeah, no, it's not, but it's like, it's just random gibberish. Here, I'm going to give me a product. Give me a product. Well,
socks.
No, give me something that's socks. That's
cable, a computer, a USB-C cable.
USB-C. Yeah. So there's Hoinzen,
Okay.
and Ainope, AINOPE, and INIU. That one might actually be real. Gochick. This is
okay, I just can't take this anymore. It's just too funny.
Isn't it funny?
All right.
Yeah.
Your point taken. Guthrie, let's wrap.
No, but
what?
Okay, yeah, you
wrap it up.
So the point is that I believe what Amazon has changed.
Yes.
They used to be sort of like a like a Walmart where you go and it was good prices on recognizable brands. And they still have that. But now really what it's become a direct to consumer Chinese retailer.
Yep.
Like everything is made in Asia. And then it's basically, we recently bought a freezer.
Yeah.
There are only a couple companies that sell freezers. They're different brands. Many of the brands make their freezers in China at like the same factory.
Yeah.
And then they're sold in the US under like,
Whirlpool,
brands, but like
right.
it's not. It's just the same thing. And there's a lot of Asian distributors who are like, why should we take our stuff that we're making in our factories, sell it to, Belkin or whatever, and then Belkin is like selling it here? Like, why? Like
we'll just sell direct.
We'll just sell directly on Amazon to a enormous swath of American consumers.
Yeah.
And that has led to Amazon having everything, and the prices are good, but there's so much more crap and uncertainty and shadiness that's happening.
Yeah, that's true.
Most of it's really good. If you like, I remember I had a friend who bought a little like mini fan that you like hold if you're like, walking around. And it's like $12, and it's some no name brand that makes no sense with like the bad captions and stuff. It's great. There's no problem with it. The battery lasts forever. It's well designed.
Yeah.
So it's not like it's all bad, but like you really don't know what you're going to get. And my point is that these services are changing and they're not as good. And I think people may be starting to drift away from Amazon because it's like they used to be scrappy and now they're rich.
I want to tell you one more story and then we'll stop.
This is a rambly podcast.
It was very rambly. We apologize. The podcast I was listening to that was talking about the Amazon antitrust, this woman who's a reporter said they decided to try an experiment in their family. So they canceled their Prime membership, and I think they still bought some stuff from Amazon, but the whole idea of instant shipping, free shipping, they didn't have that anymore. They were going to have to pay for shipping, and she said it absolutely did change their behavior. So when they would put things in the cart, and then it wasn't going to come today or tomorrow. It was going to come in a week. And so then they decided they didn't need it. So then they wouldn't buy it. So it might be the end. It might be the end of retail America, Guthrie.
I don't.
It might. This might throw us into a big recession.
Yeah, I don't.
Okay, I'm
I
kidding.
don't think so.
All right, Guthrie. If people have comments
No,
and they
can I
what?
gotta add one or two more
Oh
small things.
God, what?
Amazon's revenue. Remember I said Facebook was 112 billion?
Yeah.
Amazon's revenue in 2022 was 514 billion.
Billion?
Yeah. In revenue.
Wow.
Oh, they're $500 billion revenue. Now, no, their margins are lower than, a Meta, but they are
Wait a
enormous.
minute. Really? What's Walmart?
Oh, what a great question.
Revenue.
Walmart revenue is 611 billion.
Yeah, that's what I thought.
What do you think Costco is?
All right, and then we really have
Costco
to stop.
is 225, so they're up there too.
Yeah, so it's Walmart, Amazon, and Costco.
Maybe Target
in that order.
Well,
all right, Guthrie, if people want to reach us, which now they're not going to, we'll never hear from anybody. But if they do want to reach us, how should they do that? We
didn't wrap this up. The point is keep an eye out for the antitrust news.
Thank you.
It'll be really interesting. We didn't even get how it affects UX.
We kind of did.
We didn't. Yeah, I like it. Yeah. Move on. All right.
If people want to reach us, how should they do that?
You can reach us at info@theteamw.com. I'm going to add just a couple quick plugs.
Go ahead. Plug away.
Plug number one. If you are looking for contractors for 2024, reach out.
Yeah.
We're having some people come off contract at the end of
the year.
We
have some really good people.
So get in touch about that. Also scheduling workshops for 2024.
Yeah, we're putting together our workshop and speaking schedule for 2024. So if you want one of us or both of us.
We have a new Agile and UX
we have a new Agile UX workshop.
Yep.
That is really cool. If anybody out there is doing UX work in an Agile shop, 97% of the people, but yes, if anybody's doing that and they want to know, could it be going better than what it is, which I think the answer is yes, it could be, then you want to contact us and ask us about the Agile UX workshop.
And I want to add one more thing. We have free courses out on various platforms.
Free online courses.
Free online courses. I have an ethics course. I have a behavioral economics course. You have a bunch of free, intro to various UX topics. So people should check that out. And I don't know if you know this, but just yesterday I looked and I had like 500 new signups for the ethics fundamentals, and I believe all from Africa. So I emailed some people, tried to get some hey, what's going on? I think some school in Africa was here, go watch this.
That's fun.
To ethics. So,
and Guthrie, if people are interested in our free courses, the URL for that is
you can find them in a lot of places, but courses.theteamw.com is going to be
courses.theteamw.com.
There's some stuff on YouTube too. I don't know.
All right, thank you, Africa. The whole continent?
I don't know where they're from. I just know that they're from. The names looked African to me. They kind of look Nigerian, but I'm not.
We're not sure.
Not sure. So
if anybody's listening that is one of those people, let Guthrie know why all of a sudden everybody wants that course.
No, I emailed. I'm going to get an answer.
Okay. All right. Thank you, Guthrie.
Bye.
Talk later. Bye.